We appreciate that. Okay, this is the final lap of the program. Harriet Agboyi, my co-anchor, is still here, and of course, Ms. Anastasia Brahma, who is the head of legal and director at the Securities and Exchange Commission, with the breaking news regarding the new rules on demutualization, and of course, professor of entrepreneurship and politician, Professor Pat Utomi. We thank you, everybody, for being here. We got some of your Twitter questions to Professor Pat Utomi, asking, requesting whether he will be part of the APC cabinet moving forward. Professor Pat will keep that to the end. Some folks are watching and asking, if you wrote the script, perhaps you should be the one to implement it. Let's cross over to Harriet. We're still talking demutualization a bit.
Yes, we're still talking demutualization. Anastasia, you already started talking about, what these new rules are going to comprise of, and cut you off there when we're talking about, whether the stockbroking community was carried along. So let's get back to it. What do these new rules say?
Okay, I've already talked about the pre-demutualization requirements that the NSE would need to file with the SEC before it actually takes it to the CAC. And after it's been registered as a company, it would have to come back to the Commission. The rules provide for post-demutualization requirements. So it brings in its certificate. It first of all, it fills the form from SEC Form 5, and accompanying the form, you would have to send in the certificate of incorporation, the particulars of directors, the proposed rules. Right now, the NSE does have rules, but since the structure is going to change, some parts of those rules would have to change. So they would also send in those proposed rules for approval. That's what the ISA states. And then it would have to also give us a 3-year implementation or development plan on how it intends to operate for 3 years and how it intends to finance itself for 3 years. And also all the necessary normal documents they had filed at the CAC would have to be brought post-demutualization to the SEC.
But how many days will it take for those rules to be approved post-demutualization?
The rules say 60 days. Within 60 days, the SEC would have to look at the application and then communicate to the NSE or the exchange, the demutualized exchange, whether it has been approved as an exchange or not.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about good governance, and I'm sure that's where Professor Pat was coming in before we went on break. Prof, would you please take us through what your thoughts are on how you think the rules should be tightened enough on good governance, because it looks like in Nigeria there's a recurring decima, whether it's at the political level or at the corporate level.
Yeah. Well, good governance is really about a process, the hierarchy of accountability, where oversight, which essentially helps the leadership frame strategy and therefore account to various stakeholders in agreed metrics. I think that one of the problems that organizations have is that when the people who lead don't have that kind of guidance, even in good conscience, they can make very serious error because people bring different perspectives. One of my favorite examples comes from a company that was very successful in the UK, so I don't take a local example. And they were failing. Cadbury were failing. And this story was told to a small group of us by then Chairman and Chief Executive of Cadbury, Sir Adrian Cadbury. And at the meeting, a non-executive director said to him, Adrian, this problem is very simple, it's very obvious. This is why. These divisions are taking this company down. If we got rid of these divisions, sold them to those who will get better synergy with them, and we acquired some companies that have more synergy with these ones that we're great at, we would make dramatic progress. And so Adrian said he went to the bathroom, looked at the mirror and looked at himself and realized the reason he couldn't make a simple, straight decision was that his grandfather founded the company on those divisions, and in his mind, he was saying, I don't want to be the one that sold the family silver, and yet he was selling the family silver. But the third eye helped him see more clearly. And Cadbury Schweppes came along and progress returned. So governance is fundamental in the sense that that oversight helps even a well-minded, even a non-corrupt leadership see things that it will miss.
So I'm going to ask Ms. Abrahama here very quickly. So what lessons has the SEC learned in putting these rules on demutualization together?
It's learned to work with the market. The SEC didn't want to just come out with rules, which it was capable of doing, but it had to partner with the market to ensure that it had an input and understand. We don't know everything. So we got the input of both brokers, the membership, the owners of the exchange, as it were, and then we got a feel of the anxieties as to the process of demutualization. So what the rules now have been formulated to ensure a transparent and efficient process as much as possible. There might be issues here and there, but largely I would think the rules have captured.
So you are the head of legal. Will you bite if anyone flouts this rule?
Of course. I'm the head of legal, but we also have an enforcement department. So it will be left for me to tell them what has been flouted and the enforcement department to enforce.
Okay, so let me quickly ask you this one. We got a tweet from Salter Swan. He says, with these new rules, are we not over-regulating the capital market? Hope we will not get selective regulating.
No, it's not over-regulating because this is new, it's novel. This is the first time a securities exchange is being demutualized. So there's no over-regulation here. And as a regulator, we normally regulate securities exchange, and it's only proper that in its demutualized state, it still also has to be regulated. So I don't see any over-regulation here.
Prof, you want an SEC that bites, isn't it?
You know, when you said SEC that bites, I was looking at her teeth. I tell you,
because
we do bite.
Well, you should bite.
We do bite.
Political dispensation Nigeria 2015 is all about if the president bites, then the SEC has to bite.
Yes.
So everybody's looking at who's going to bite.
And who's going to bite harder anyway?
but ultimately it's about discipline.
Yeah.
This whole thing, and that's what the whole change we're talking about, Nigeria, generally speaking, is there discipline in this system? If there's no discipline, it falls apart. But if there's a leadership that is disciplined, invariably they become settled habits of a community, and institutional arrangements come that lead us to doing the right thing. Discipline. Harold.
Well, very true what they've all said, but I wanted to quickly, run us through some of those numbers that we're getting that, got lost in all of the election, up and down. I'm talking about the markets now, and of course the SEC is here. So looking at how the markets are, focusing on all the news and all the reports that are coming in, particularly this new one about the demutualization and how the market's going to be reacting to it, I don't know. But looking at how the markets looked like last week, they looked largely mixed, and we had 2 days of gain going towards the end of the week, and hopefully that gain should continue this week as alleviated political concerns and currency stability remains supportive of investors' confidence. Also this week, the Debt Management Office is supposed to hold a bond auction on April 15th, that is 15.30, that's April 15th, that is 30 billion naira worth of 15.54% FGN February 2020 bonds will be auctioned, as well as 20 billion naira worth of the 14.02% FGN March 2024 and 12.41% of the FGN July 2034 bonds. All of this will be auctioned, and they're all reopenings of previous issues. Also, interbank rates are expected to rise as banks hold funds to meet their cash reserve requirements and participate in the monthly bond auction. Currency market is expected to remain largely steady as it strengthens at the parallel market. Now, what we saw last week at the end of the week, the Naira closed at about 199 Naira 15 kobo at the interbank forex market, but at the parallel market it was trading at 197 Naira to the dollar, and that should largely continue going into this week. Of course, the Treasury bills market is also expected to see further profit take-ins and more yield expansions. The week ended with about 31 basis points yield expansion, which is quite marginal compared to the 109 basis points decline recorded in the previous week, of course, largely driven by the decline in the 139 DTM bill. Wilson.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Harriet, for sneaking in those numbers for us. Ms. Brava, let's get back to you. This is a very good process. We put it in place, but what's the impact that you expect this moving forward? I don't know. For the SEC in Nigeria, your role isn't just about making rules, it's about developing the market, so you're juggling both balls at the same time.
Yes, like I wanted to say, the SEC is open to explain any of these rules. So if the market does not understand the rules, we are willing to explain. You can write to the SEC and we would explain any rule that is not clear. Like you had mentioned, it's on our website, so they can www.sec.gov.ng. They can go there and would explain. But we see it moving the market forward. because we know the advantages of an exchange that is demutualized, and we expect that once the exchange is demutualized, those advantages will come to bear and move the market forward.
Okay, I think we're going to take a wrap. Professor Patu-Tomi, thank you very much for being on the show. But one very quick last one for you. Going back to the state governments, now that we're settling down into business, quite a number of them are coming with heavy debt portfolio. A number of them exposed to the debt capital market where Ms. Rama came from in terms of borrowings from the market. How do we see this is going forward?
One of the things that is important to get to when we talk about transitions, I think, unfortunately, we've not moved as quickly as we should. Transition teams should be already at work.
Yeah, someone just asked if you are going to be part of that process, transition team. Will you?
These decisions are made in different ways. But the point is, these transition teams should be sitting already. I think that there's too much domestic debt already. The burden of servicing the domestic debt for the next government is daunting. So any decisions around debt between now and May should be in consultation with the new teams coming in. I think that we need to begin to watch these things because this economy is already in such a deep hole that we don't want to make it more difficult for those who are coming in to guide it out of where it is currently stuck.
But will you be part of the new administration in any way moving forward?
I'm a member of the party, and I will serve the party as required in different roles. So in that sense, yes,
we thank you for coming on the show, Professor Patu-Tomi, a professor of entrepreneurship and a politician, a member of the All Progressives Congress. We appreciate your time early in the morning to be here, part of the Nigeria 2015 studios. And Ms. Anastasia Brahma, we thank you very much for your coming through from Abuja, the headquarters. And thank you for breaking that news here on channels, television, the new rules on demutualization. And of course, my colleague and co-anchor on the show, Harriet Agbeyi.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. For everyone watching, the studio remains open. This is where we don't close for business. We remain business open. This is Open Skies here on Channels Television. Thank you for watching. We'll be back in a few minutes from now, and the conversation continues on Nigeria 2015. Keep your eyes on Channels Television. I am Busi Namafayi. Bye for now.